Welcome, everyone. Thank you for attending today. We are excited to have this webinar and equip you with some information, tools, and strategies on making sure that everyone who's eligible is getting their child tax credit. I'm Lana Shope, and I lead the CARES project here at the National Community Action Partnership. And I am thrilled to have our friends from the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities sharing their wisdom with us so that we can all be wiser about what we do in reaching families. One of our customs in the partnership is to start our training with the promise of community action to help us center on what it is we are about and what we do. So if you go to the next slide, please. Community action changes people's lives, embodies the spirit of hope, improves communities, and makes America a better place to live. We care about the entire community, and we are dedicated to helping people help themselves and each other. And one of the ways that we do this is through the child tax credit. And we see this as a strategy that is important for us in helping families get the money that they deserve. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Roxy and Christine, and I will be monitoring the chat. So please put comments and questions there, and we will take those at the end of the webinar. And again, thank you for being a part of this.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Lana, and thank you to Community Action Partnership for creating this opportunity. We're very excited to be here to share with you information about the child tax credit and specifically how you can help families that are eligible and aren't currently getting the credit to get it. So if you aren't familiar, I want to start by sharing a little bit of information about the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. We are a nonprofit, nonpartisan research and policy institute, and we pursue federal and state policies designed to reduce poverty and inequality in equitable and effective ways. For more than 30 years, the center has ran a national tax credit outreach campaign that is currently known as the Get It Back campaign. And this is a national effort to connect eligible people to refundable tax credits like the child tax credit, as well as the earned income tax credit, and connect people to free tax preparation and other tax benefits. So we work with a diverse network of partners, including several local CAP and CAA agencies, and you can learn more about us at taxoutreach.org. So I'll start with an overview of what we will be covering today. Hopefully we will get to all of your questions and concerns, and if not, you can ask us anything that we haven't covered at the end. So we'll start with a quick overview of the child tax credit. We'll explore how to get the CTC payment. We'll discuss overcoming common barriers and solutions and ways that you can assist. We'll also look at some of the ways that you can engage CTC outreach efforts in your community. We'll share resources to do all of this work, and then we'll close with our Q&A. So before we get started, we'd love to learn a little bit more about you and learn who is in this virtual room. So if you could please share your organization and location in the chat, that would be excellent. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the child tax credit overview. So the child tax credit under the American Rescue Plan, the child tax credit was expanded. And so now almost every family can receive money from the child tax credit. This includes families that haven't filed a tax return, families that don't have recent income, and families that have a child who has a Social Security number, even if the filer does not have a Social Security number. And we're going to talk a little bit more about what that means and why that is important. Qualifying households can receive $3,600 for each child under 6 and $3,000 for each child between the ages of 6 and 17. And there is not a maximum number of children that can be claimed for the child tax credit. Families can receive half of the money in 2021 and the other half in 2022 when they file a 2021 tax return. This credit is not a loan and it does not change public benefits. And these are two very important pieces to highlight, because we have learned that these are concerns that are very prominent among non-filers. So this is information that you will want to incorporate into your outreach efforts. Currently, this CTC expansion is for 1 year, while there are efforts to extend or make it permanent. So who is eligible for the child tax credit? Well, first, as mentioned briefly, you don't need to have income to be able to get this tax credit. The tax credit phases out at the income levels that you see on the screen. And what that means is if someone earns more than these amounts, they will get less than the maximum $3,000 or $3,600 per child, depending on the child's age. And eventually the credit amount will just completely taper off and flatline, so that people who are earning higher incomes are not eligible. Parents or guardians must have a Social Security, parents or guardians can have a Social Security number or an individual taxpayer identification number, which is known as an ITIN. So the parent can have either one. The child must have the Social Security number. And for the child tax credit, you must have a qualifying child. So let's take a look at what is considered a qualifying child. So there's a couple of factors that make up a qualifying child for the child tax credit. And some of these differ from the definition of a qualifying child for other tax credits and other tax purposes. So for the child tax credit, the child does not have to just be one's son or daughter. There are other relationships that also meet the definition of a qualifying child. This includes a grandchild, a stepchild, a sibling, a step sibling, as well as an adopted child or a foster child. The child, as mentioned before, must be under 17 by December 31st, 2021. The child must live with the filer for more than half the year in the United States. And this living together does not have to be consecutive. So sometimes children move around and spend time with different family members or different caretakers. And so the filer, the total time with the filer must equal more than half the year. A child must have a Social Security number, and they cannot provide more than half of their own support in 2021. Finally, a child must be considered a dependent for tax filing purposes. So this is what makes up a qualifying child. So now I'm going to turn it over. Oh, one more point. There is an exception with the residency requirements, and that is that some non-custodial parents may be eligible to get the child tax credit. So if a non-custodial parent is permitted to claim their child for tax purposes and they have a signed waiver form from the custodial parent, then they are eligible to get the child tax credit. So now I will turn it over to Christine, who will talk about getting advanced child tax credit payments.
Awesome. Thank you, Roxy. So yes, I'll move ahead on this section on how to actually get the child tax credit advance payments. So one important thing to keep in mind is that most families will already automatically receive advanced CTC payments. There is no further action required from families who filed a 2019 or 2020 tax return, received stimulus payments, or use the 2020 IRS non-filer tool to sign up for stimulus payments. For families who don't fall into any of these three categories, the IRS will not have information about them and can't send them CTC payments automatically. From here, there are two options that people who have not gotten their CTC payments can take to submit their information to the IRS. One, they can use ctc.org if they're not required to file a tax return. So for a 2020 return as a single filer, you are required to file taxes you make more than $12,400. Then the second option, if they're required to file taxes, or if they want to claim other tax credit benefits like the earned income tax credit, they should file a full 2020 tax return. You don't need a filing requirement to file a full tax return to access other benefits like the EITC. So we generally advise that you have any income or children to consider filing a full return instead to access your money and other benefits. And depending on where you're located, families may also be eligible for state and local credits. So there are a lot of benefits to filing a full return, but something to keep in mind is that the eligibility requirements for tax credits differ. For instance, some tax credits might or may not require an SSN, so advise accordingly. So this next tool I want to get into is getctc.org, and this tool allows non-filers, so people who aren't required to file a tax return, to sign up for advanced CTC payments. Along with this tool, you can also claim the first and second stimulus check as a recovery rebate credit. This happens if people are missing their stimulus checks or didn't get the full amount that they're eligible for. And by submitting their information to getctc.org, they'll also be signed up for the third stimulus check, which they'll get separately. And the great thing about this tool is that it's user and mobile friendly. It's also available in Spanish. It's endorsed by the White House, and it has a live chat feature staffed by IRS certified officials to help out with people as they're going through the form. And this tool will be available through November 15th, 2021. All right, so the next tool I want to highlight is the Child Tax Credit Update Portal. So this tool is used to manage your CTC advance payments and update your information. As of right now, you can check your status or eligibility to see if you're able to receive advance payments. So show a status there, eligible or not. You can view payments and see the payment schedule of when it was sent. You can also opt out of advance payments if you prefer to receive a lump sum in the future. You can change or add bank account information. So if you aren't currently receiving direct deposit and want to stop getting checks sent in the mail and get your advance payments a little faster, you can add your bank account information. If you prefer still to receive mailed checks, you can just make changes to your mailing address. And eventually, except we're not really sure when it'll be up yet, you'll be able to make updates to your income, marital status, number of children, and re-enroll in advance payments. And this will be important to update so the IRS has the most recent information so they can have your advance payments amounts correct to send to you. All right, so in this next section, I will also be going over 7 challenges that you might face in helping families sign up for advance payments. Most importantly, we'll also walk through some solutions you can take when your client runs into a problem. Before we get into that though, I want to zoom out a bit and highlight why CTC outreach is important and who we're helping. It's important to highlight who these families are, which may be people called non-filers who could really benefit from these payments the most. There are 4 million non-filers, and people often want to know who the non-filers are and where they're located. So here are some of the general characteristics of non-filers across the country, but of course it may look different depending on your community. So non-filers are people who are generally very low income. They usually aren't required to file a tax return, which is why the IRS doesn't have their information to automatically send them the CTC payments. They receive other benefits like SNAP, TANF, Medicaid. Some of the non-filers come from immigrant communities or immigrants, and they are Social Security and Veteran Affairs beneficiaries. If you want more information on the non-filers in your community, we have a report here done by the Center on Budget that has state-by-state numbers. All right, so to get into the challenge itself, the first bucket of challenges is missing information, where people are required to provide a home address. And so some solutions or opportunities you can take is to connect people who don't have a permanent address to service providers who are willing to let them use their address to receive payments. You also offer your own organization's address. If you're assisting in people experiencing homelessness, you can contact your IRS territory manager to become an IRS trusted partner so you can receive multiple CTC payments in the same area without being flagged for fraud. You can also inform people they can use a relative or friend's address and that the IRS will also deliver to PO boxes, or you can connect people to direct deposit so they can receive their payments faster and safer. The second challenge involved in missing information is that people are asked to provide their banking information when they use Get CTC. This is an opportunity to reassure people that they don't in fact need to have banking information. It's just if they want to receive direct deposit, advance payments can be mailed as checks. Alternatively, you can connect people to safe and affordable checking accounts by using this link below. Or you can let people know that they can use a prepaid reloadable debit card, Cash App, Venmo, or PayPal to provide account and routing number. Next, the challenge also in missing information is that people don't know how much they've already received from the first and stimulus checks. So on getctc.org, people will be asked if they have received their first and second stimulus checks. If they didn't receive it or didn't get the full amount they're entitled to, GetCTC will help them claim the amount they're owed from the first and second stimulus check as a recovery rebate credit. But in order to do this, they need to know how much they have already received, which may pose a problem for people. So what you can do is tell them to check their IRS notices. Two were sent to them for the first and second stimulus that displays the amount on there. If they receive their checks by direct deposit, you could tell them to look at their bank account information to try to find the amount. And at the end of the day, if they really can't find the information, they can estimate it based on memory how much they're owed. If the IRS needs to correct the information, this may, though, delay the delivery of their tax refund. But rest assured that IRS will correct it for them. Now, the second bucket I want to talk about of challenges you might face come from people who are undocumented. So people who are undocumented may think that they're ineligible to receive the CTC. This is a big messaging point to let people know that they are actually eligible. Only their children need to have Social Security numbers. Parents can have ITINs. In addition, children and parents with DACA do qualify if the child has a Social Security number. Next challenge in this bucket is that people may be hesitant to claim the CTC because they're worried about immigration enforcement. So of course, this is a big concern in the immigrant community. And this is also a big education point to highlight to people that the IRS has strict confidentiality laws that prohibits the IRS from sharing information with other government agencies, including the US Citizenship and Immigration Services, except in very extreme cases like criminal fraud or investigation of terrorism. In addition, to encourage people to file, it'll also be good to tell them that filing taxes can serve as proof of good moral character for future immigration cases, and it also provides documentation of income, residence in the US, and marital status. Now, from here, I'll go ahead and hand it over to Roxy to talk about the rest of the challenges and solutions.
Thank you, Christine. So another bucket of challenges relates to public charge. And some people may be hesitant to claim the child tax credit because they are worried that they may be considered a public charge. So here there's an opportunity to let people know that the child tax credit, as well as other tax credits, will not impact their immigration status or their ability to apply for citizenship. Tax credits are not considered in a public charge assessment, and there are a couple of resources that are available that you can share with people if they have additional questions. So we talked a little bit about the need to have an individual taxpayer identification number, also known as an ITIN. This is important for people who don't have a Social Security number and are not able to get one. So if people don't have an ITIN, what do they do? Well, this is an opportunity, you have an opportunity to help people apply for an ITIN. There's an ITIN application that must be attached to a tax return, and this must be submitted through the mail. There isn't an online version of doing this. There are specific factors to make sure that the information is correct in an ITIN application. So you can help refer people to those who are trained to help provide assistance in applying for an ITIN. This would include IRS taxpayer assistance centers or certified acceptance agents. And there are a few free tax preparation sites that provide this service as well. Because you need the ITIN application as well as the tax return to submit, you can also refer people to a VITA site that can help them prepare their tax return. So another concern that we hear a lot is related to repayment. People are extremely worried that they will have to repay the advanced child tax credit payment that they are receiving in 2021. So you can remind people and emphasize that this money is not a loan. Congress enacted a repayment protection plan as well for families with lower incomes if the IRS makes an overpayment. So, for example, if the IRS pays someone advanced child tax credit payments for a child that isn't actually living with that person, people who earn $40,000 or less, if they are single filer, 50,000 or less if they are head of household, and 60,000 or less if they're married filing jointly, are protected. So they would not have to repay the payment if the IRS overpaid in those situations. This repayment, it phases out. So people would be responsible for a smaller amount of repayment, a certain percentage, if they earn more, up to double those amounts. Once you reach double those incomes, 80,000 for single filer, 100,000 for head of household, and 60,000 for married filing jointly. If you earn more than that, then you'll be responsible for repaying the whole amount. So that is something that you can help make sure people understand to reduce the concern around repayment. Additionally, you can let people know that they can update their information using the Child Tax Credit Update Portal when the ability to make the changes that Christine shared before become available. And that's if they become available this year. We're not sure where the IRS stands on that currently. So another group of concerns relates to misconceptions and worries. Some people who are divorced or separated or unmarried are confused about which parent has the right to get the child tax credit. So because this has been such a popular question, Christine has authored a wonderful guide for this population, and it answers questions based on different scenarios and provides some guidance of what some of the next steps may be. I will say that this can be really complex, and in some cases, some people may not be able to get the advanced child tax credit payments in 2021. It may take some time to resolve, where if they're eligible, they'll see their money later in 2022. But there are some ways to make sure that they get the money. You can also connect people to low-income taxpayer clinics or community legal aid organizations if they need legal help to resolve their situation. And you can encourage people to consult with their attorney that handled their divorce if it's a case that involves divorce. The final group of challenges and solutions that we'll discuss relates to fear and shame around filing taxes. Some people know about the child tax credit advance payments, but they're fearful to claim it. Some people may feel shame around being a non-filer, and especially people who maybe know that they were supposed to file taxes in previous years, but they weren't able to for whatever reason. So this is an opportunity to reassure people about the CTC basics. One is that recent earnings are not required. So this is especially important given last year and the continuing pandemic, that people know if they didn't work or if they had reduced earnings and reduced hours, that they still can get this child tax credit. Also, you can let people know that the CTC will not change public benefits. Some people are really concerned that if they get this money, that it means that they'll be kicked off of their housing program or their SNAP benefits. You can also remind people that legal guardianship is not required to claim the CTC. Some people have expressed concern because they aren't the legal guardian of the child that lives with them, and they think that they'll get in trouble if they try to claim the child tax credit. Now, you can remind people too that the advanced CTC payments will not be reduced if someone owes taxes. There is a little bit of a caveat here. So the advance payments that are issued in 2021 will not be reduced. So someone will get the full benefit of half of the tax credit. When someone files a tax return in 2022 to get that remaining CTC, the tax refund can be reduced if someone owes outstanding taxes or if they owe child support, then that money can be garnished for that purpose. So there is a little bit of a caveat to let people know about, but they can still benefit from the advance payments. And when you're working with clients and talking about like longer term, the full picture, if someone owes back taxes or child support and the child tax credit goes towards that next year, this is helping to reduce their debt and clear the slate so that they can benefit from tax refunds in the future. So it's still beneficial. Finally, you can let people know that the IRS can arrange a payment plan if they owe taxes. So they may be eligible, again, for tax credits that can help reduce this amount and allow them to receive future refunds. So hopefully some of these resources are helpful if you're seeing clients that are experiencing some of these challenges. So now I'm going to turn it over back to Christine to discuss how you can help families get the child tax credit advance payments.
Awesome. Thank you, Roxy. Yes. So in this section, I'll be going over some concrete ways and ideas that your organization can help to assist families and connect them to the CTC advance payments. So we went over this before, so I won't go ahead and read the list again. But when it comes to targeting certain groups for outreach efforts, we really want to focus on non-filers. And these are the general characteristics of non-filers, but once again, keep in mind it may differ depending on your community. Also here, I won't go over this slide in detail, but we work with consultants to come up with key CTC messages for non-filers that you can use in your conversations as talking points in social media posts and so forth. And this is also included in our CTC outreach toolkit that we work with our consultants to make, which is linked at the end of this presentation. All right, so in this portion, I'll be going over 4 ideas that you can adopt to connect families to payment. I want to emphasize that more direct hands-on support there is, that will be the biggest helps to connect families who need to sign up. So the first thing is to answer basic questions about the CTC. Even people who are set to receive the child tax credit advance payments, they might still have a lot of questions about it. Being able to talk to your clients about the CTC and address some of their concerns will be really helpful in helping them feel reassured. For example, if they have questions about how the CTC will impact their immigration status or if it will impact their other public benefits, people need to know that getting the CTC doesn't impact your immigration status or ability to apply for citizenship and doesn't impact the other public benefits. You can also use our CTC FAQs to help answer other questions, and we update this regularly depending on the type of questions we see and depending on what we hear that people want answers to. The next idea is to train staff and volunteers to be CTC navigators. So this is definitely a more involved approach, and this is where also that there's one of the greatest needs. So if your organization has capacity to do this, it could be really helpful. CTC navigators are community-based people who support and walk families through on how to sign up for the CTC. Navigators are ready to provide hands-on support to sign people for payments and troubleshoot any issues that they might have. And just to emphasize, you don't need to be a tax preparer to help people use Get CTC. And a good way to do this is to designate staff like caseworkers, VITA staff, or outreach staff to train to become navigators and serve as the point person families can talk to. Code for America's Navigator Resources which is on their website, features everything you need to become a navigator, including guides and a demo of Get CTC. You can also view our Get CTC Navigator trainings, which we partner with Code for America to host, which covers how to determine a client's next step, how to troubleshoot if a return is rejected, and what navigator and outreach resources are available, and takes you step by step through the CTC update portal as well. These resources are linked at the end of our presentation. And just a tip, Code for America will allow you to generate your own URL, for example, getctc.org/NCAP, so that when you're helping clients sign up for it, they can use this link and you can track your outreach impact, and reports will be generated for the number of clients that you serve. The next idea is to host CTC sign-up days at your organization so people can use Get CTC. So just a list of what this includes is, of course, setting a time and date, publicizing the event to families or clients you serve. Also, it'd be good to mention what they need to bring or have on hand for this appointment, providing internet access on their computers. And you don't have to do this alone. You could partner with other organizations such as public libraries to provide these types of resources. And of course, having staff available to help families navigate the process and answer questions. Finally, the last idea is to spread the word. So staff can hand out flyers to families who utilize your various programs. Caseworkers can include information about the CTC in their written materials or talk about the CTC when they meet with clients, including information about the CTC on your kiosks, automated phone lines, just around your organization through flyers, and leveraging your organization listservs and contact information to send emails, mailers, and texts about the CTC. And just a tip here, flyers or conversations with families should definitely include places where they can sign up to get help. You can also help them set up an appointment or sign them up for one of your CTC sign-up day events. So here right now, we just have a quick brainstorm blitz. If you can share any ideas that your organization has or you can think of to help families connect to the CTC, we would love to hear about them. And with that, I'll hand it back to Roxy for resources.
Thanks, Christine. And it was so great seeing you all share where you're joining from the chat. So please do feel free to share how you may engage CTC outreach efforts, or if you've already done something already, let us know what you've done and what's been working for you. Well, we must share resources to help you do all of this outreach work. So I do want to share one more time that we have an additional month to help families get the advanced child tax credit payments. Thanks to Code for America's getctc.org tool, which is available through November 15th, we have this additional time to really connect more families to the payments. So the Get It Back campaign has created a number of resources to help support different different type levels of child tax credit outreach. So we have a child tax credit outreach hub that you can find at taxoutreach.org/coronavirus. I know there's a lot of links here, and you will get the links to everything later, but if you're really interested in starting to dive in, just focus on that first link and it will connect you to all of these other resources. So it includes a CTC FAQs. We have a getting started guide to CTC outreach. If you're new to CTC outreach, there's the research paper that Christine mentioned earlier. We have links to the territory managers if you want to become a trusted IRS partner to help people who are unhoused be able to include an address on their return. We also have the custody and CTC guide that I mentioned earlier. We have multilingual outreach materials as well, and specific information to help support immigrants too. And then we have created a guide to help you create a customized plan if you really want to dive in with CTC outreach. There's a guide that is designed for 6 weeks, and you can customize it to 4 weeks or less so that you are continuously doing something each week to help contribute to CTC outreach efforts. And for those that want to dive into becoming a CTC navigator, we have trainings that are archived. We also link to the materials that Code for America has created as well. And we do have a step-by-step guide to our to using the IRS child tax credit update portal. And it includes information for creating an account through id.me and a guide to using it. And finally, we have this very comprehensive outreach toolkit that focuses on the child tax credit. It includes resources for all types of outreach that you may want to engage, whether that is doing media outreach and doing PSAs and getting press coverage. If you want to use social media, we have 3 different versions of messaging so that you aren't just repeating the same messages and sharing the same posts. We have call and text scripts, as well as a sample newsletter and flyers and postcards. So all of that you can take a look at later, but I will have you get a preview of what our flyer looks like. So our flyer here is available in color and black and white, and we've also translated it into 7 languages. So you'll find the flyer as well as a postcard as well that is available in the 7 languages that you see on the screen. And if you are working with communities that speak English as a second language, we do have a separate toolkit that we created that highlights the availability of the child tax credit and includes some information about the 3rd round of stimulus payments, since there was an expansion to that round specifically that allows more families that include ITIN holders to be eligible for it. So here you can see the languages that this kit is available in. Next, we'll share some of the state resources that are available. It's always helpful if you can localize your outreach as much as possible. So a few resources. One, the Department of Treasury issued zip code data for CTC eligible children in non-filer households. So that would be a great starting point. Tax Policy Center used this information to create more visual heat maps, so you can also access the information that way. And then the Annie E. Casey Foundation has state fact sheets that share how families are using the child tax credit. So that can also be useful in your outreach, especially if you are looking at engaging other organizations to partner in your efforts. And we've compiled just a quick list of some resources, additional resources that you may find useful. We've mentioned Get CTC already, and 211 is also a resource. And childtaxcredit.com has a great CTC eligibility calculator. In addition to an FAQs. And the calculator can be really useful because sometimes people, it just seems very intimidating to submit information to the IRS, and it seems like a big process. And sometimes people can become more motivated when they see just how much money they can actually get. Finally, we have letsgetset.co as a resource where if people want to get more information, they can also text in questions and get responses directly. This is another resource that really is focused on parents and new parents earning under $40,000. So with that, we are concluding our presentation. Thank you for your participation. And if you want to learn more about us and connect with us, you can email us, you could call us, you can visit our website, and you can also sign up for our email list where we send periodic updates about other resources and events and things that not only we're doing, but others in the field are doing. So thank you. I will turn it back to Lana, I believe.
That's correct. Thank you. Thank you. One thing I love about the Senate on Budget and Policy Priorities, they don't forget anything. I mean, they have the information and they have the tools. So it's wonderful to have such great resources at our fingertips. I just wanted to say, you know, every family that we can get signed up for this so that they can get that monthly payment really helps stabilize the income of the household, helps them stay current on their bills, and addresses some of the volatility of the poverty, the percentage of families in poverty. That stability is so helpful when families are trying to get through the month. Maybe they did get a nice tax return on their taxes because of the earned income tax credit, which is great, but having a child tax credit happening throughout the year is very, very helpful. And in our conversations with some of our customers, they've told us how they are spending those dollars. You know, they're able to, in some cases, pay past due bills so they can get current on their bills. National data is showing it's addressing food insecurity all across the country. It's all a good thing. We did have a couple of questions, kind of specific. Let me get to this. If a family did not receive a stimulus payment, but on the Get CTC tool, it says that they did, would the IRS correct that now or next year when their 2021 tax return is submitted?
Okay, so let me think about this. The Get CTC tool is showing that they did get a stimulus payment. The way that that would happen, so when you use the Get CTC tool, it prompts you to enter how much money you already received from the stimulus. So if someone enters 0, then my understanding is that Get CTC would not be able to calculate that they already received the payment. So I'm not sure if there's more to that question, that situation. If that person wants to follow up, or if you want to email us directly with more details, then we can see how we can assist you with that. But I think, well, that's my first part, but the other part of will the IRS help resolve the issue, I think was the second part of the question. Is that right?
Will they fix it now or will they fix it on their tax return?
So it would be, because these stimulus payments are linked to the 2020 tax return, when someone files a 2021 tax return next year, those stimulus payments are not going to be on that tax return. So it would need to be resolved now. And if it's not resolved now, that person may need to file an amended 2020 tax return. But there's not going to be an opportunity for, actually, okay, so we have three rounds of stimulus payments. The first and second ones are the ones where you can, if you missed out on those, when you use Get CTC, it asks you to enter how much did you receive, and then it calculates the balance, which is known as the recovery rebate credit. So if we're talking about stimulus 1 or 2, then that would need to be resolved on the 2020 tax return, and that may involve amending a 2020 tax return. Now, when you use Get CTC, you are filing, excuse me, I'm so sorry, I'm saying the wrong year. I hope I didn't confuse everyone. Okay, 2019. We're talking about the 2019 tax return. So when you use Get CTC, you are filing a 2020 tax return. If you, on the 2020 tax return, that's when you, the third round of stimulus payments is calculated. It's calculated on the 2020 tax return. So in that case, if, I think the person is talking about the first rounds, so I'm going to leave it at that. I am so sorry. I hope this wasn't completely confusing. If that person wants to email just to provide more information, it sounds like a very specific situation.
Okay, I agree.
Better.
I agree with that. A couple other questions. For filing a tax return now, would the individual have to pay a fine for being late in filing their taxes?
So if technically today, October 15th, is the last day when people can file taxes if they filed an extension. Right. The thing about that to know is that there are not any penalties if someone isn't required to file a tax return. So Christine mentioned that a single person, if they earn $12,400 or more, that is when they are required to file a tax return. The amount is a little bit different for other filing statuses. So if somebody earns less than that amount and they're filing a tax return, they're filing because they may be eligible for the EITC or some local tax credits too, then there are not any penalties or fees for filing late.
Okay, is there a graphic for the Get CT? Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Christine, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I also want to add, there aren't penalties associated with also if they're due a tax refund. So if they're expecting to receive money back, there won't be any penalties for filing late. So it could either be they're not required to file or that they're expecting a tax refund back.
Okay. Is there a graphic that an agency could use that promotes the CTC website or the tool kit? The yes. CTC.org tool?
So in our outreach toolkit, we have a number of different graphics and posts. Some of them mention child tax credit specifically, and some of them are a little bit more broad. I just put in the chat a link to one that does mention Get CTC. So if you go to the taxoutreach.org/coronavirus, and then, oh, I did not share that with everyone. Let me share that with everyone. If you go to tax credit outreach/coronavirus, and then click on the toolkit, then you'll be able to access all of the graphics. But I just put into the chat one specific graphic.
Okay. This is a very specific question. We have a customer whose child was born in 2019 and was claimed on her father's taxes, but he died in 2020. So can she receive the child tax credit?
Could you repeat it one more time, please?
Okay, so a child was born in 2019 and was claimed by her father, but he died in 2020. So can she get the child tax credit?
She is referring to the mother of the child.
Yes.
Taking it. So yes, she can get the child tax credit. She meets the relationship for the child tax credit. I'm guessing that she meets the residency that the child is living with her as well. So in this case, claimed on the 2020 return, she can file and if the child was already claimed on a 2020 return, it's going to be rejected. And so in that case, this is another one where I would want to follow up on the specifics. The bottom line is she can get it. Can she get the advance payments, and what does she need to do? That's where I would like to follow up, because part of this is being able to inform the IRS that the other person who claimed the child is no longer living.
Okay, so Marilyn, I would encourage you to reach out directly to Roxy to get some more information about that. And I think the question to Johnny's answer, the answer is, if a client received an advanced child tax credit, will it affect his or her 2021 income tax return?
So for this, the way I am hearing this question is that it depends a little bit on one's income. So if someone, most likely it will not affect their return. The expansion to the child tax credit has increased it for everyone. So before this expansion, the child tax credit was worth a maximum of $2,000 per child, and $1,400 of that was refundable. So now the child tax credit refundable portion is worth a maximum of $3,000 or $3,600. And on the tax return next year, if someone is just getting half of the credit, they're getting $1,500 or $1,800 per child. So already the credit is worth more. Depending on one's income, though, there may be some other factors where it could affect their tax return, where maybe their credit, their total tax refund is less. This particularly could be a factor if someone has some self-employment income, then that would be a consideration. Again, it's not across the board, so it really depends on that person's income and the sources of the income.
And I do know, based on conversations with some of our customers, for those who are self-employed, they are very nervous about getting the advanced monthly payment because they're living on the edge financially. It's month to month, and that money would really help. But if they file their taxes in February and they have a payment to make, they don't have the resources to make that payment. And so I know a couple of families have said, we're just going to wait till we get our taxes done and just get the lump sum if we get it, which I understand. That's kind of a unique situation for someone self-employed. But I do know that is confusing for a lot of people. And, we're really encouraging that monthly advance payment because of the benefit it brings to stability, that stability benefit that the family has that money in the moment and don't have to wait until March to get their large check back. But it's a change for a lot of families. They're used to that happening in March. So it is an adjustment, and helping them understand the value of the advanced payment, I think, is part of our message to them.
Yes, and I just want to go back briefly because now I'm scrolling through the chat. So the first question about not getting the stimulus payments, and then the person used Get CTC, and I'm interpreting this as they accidentally, in using Get CTC, they said that they did get the stimulus payment when they didn't. And so for that case, I believe the IRS would be able to auto correct that, but I would like to follow up on that because, as Christine noted, if someone indicates the wrong amount that they got previously, then the IRS is auto correcting that. So I believe that may be apply in this case as well. But if that person wants to reach out with an email so that we can follow up, that would be helpful.
All right. Well, I don't see any more questions in the chat. Thank you to our participants. I hope you found this webinar as beneficial as I did. Thank you to Christine and Roxy. Your expertise is just very valuable, and I am thankful that you were willing to share it with us in this webinar so that we can be more equipped to help families get their dollars. The last slide has contact information for myself and for Ryan Gelman, another staff person here at the partnership, who is doing some outreach on the child tax credit as well. And I don't have anything else to add. Ryan, do you have anything else to add?
No, thanks, Lana. No, I don't think so. I just think, well, obviously, thank you to Christine and Roxy. This was extremely helpful, especially I think the fielding those questions is great because people, every situation is a little bit different. So it's just great to have that expertise on hand to field those questions. And the last thing I would add is just what Lana just said. Please reach out to us if you have any questions. We're here to help. We'll help you get to the bottom of whatever the situation is. So please let us know if you're having an issue.
And we have been sharing the toolkits in our weekly e-news. So if you don't get the weekly e-newsletter, please sign up for that and we will get those out again. We're also doing a COVID-19 CARES response landing page on the website. So I'll make sure they're there as well. So you'll have multiple ways to access all these tools to help reach families. So thank you. And to get to work, helping people, changing lives. That's what we're about. Thank you.